The future of the United Auto Workers Union is riding on the next 3 days after years of federal corruption cases that brought down 2 union presidents and a total of 17 top officials with charges of embezzlement and fraud. There is a need to restore trust at this year's convention. The timing is critical on this. The United Auto Workers Union plans to negotiate new contracts with the Detroit Big Three automakers next year. 7 Action News reporter Jim Kirchner going in depth tonight to show us all the work that still needs to be done.
The convention is about voting for candidates to run for top union jobs, who will then be voted on by all union members by mail later this year. What has been called one member, one vote. That came about after multiple corruption cases and a consent decree between the Department of Justice and the union.
It's wonderful for the members because now the power's in their hands and they can decide whatever they want.
The consent decree is going to really hang over this convention. We have to do it.
The convention is also about cleaning up the union. Mike DiGiuseppe is here from New York and has been working on resolutions for the convention. Those are about reform and restoring trust at the top. Have you built enough trust?
I think we're still building trust.
There is a severe lack of trust within the UAW. That's an understatement. Gluttony, greed, and corruption has plagued the international UAW.
Trust has to be earned, and we're going to see more of this before it's going to get harder before it gets better. Let's be honest here. We have a monitor that's going to be microanalyzing everything.
Get this, the consent decree includes that federal monitor of the union for 6 years. And he just last week wrote in part, the UAW this year was concealing a union investigation into the mishandling of funds. 2 other union officials were also accused of embezzlement. 1 quit, 1 charged. 19 investigations remain open. UAW President Ray Curry had a meeting with the current U.S. Attorney in March, changed union attorneys, and called it all a reset.
It's kind of a 2 strikes and you're out. They've been warned, you have to cooperate. And that was their one chance. And if they decide that they don't want to cooperate again, I think you'll see the Justice Department going back to the courtroom and back to the table, and this whole thing could blow up.
I appreciate the former U.S. Attorney's opinion at this time because there is a new sitting Eastern District U.S. Attorney, and we'll work with that office to move forward with this obligation.
The monitor also called out the current UAW Secretary-Treasurer, Frank Stuglin. He's running for re-election. He spent $95,000 of union money on backpacks with his name on them to be handed out at 2 earlier conferences. The monitor was alerted by a call to a tip line.
5 years ago, that would have happened and no one would have batted an eye and they would have gotten away with it. And now it's like, let's put on the brakes, time out. You cannot do that.
Mike Booth is the president of the UAW local up in Marysville, north of Detroit. We showed you back in 2019, his local sued the international UAW for not doing enough to protect union jobs with a change in ownership of their organized axle plant. Booth is running this year for international VP.
We must demand a forensic audit of the finances of the international UAW.
One thing everyone agrees on is opposition to the early release by the Federal Bureau of Prisons of the past 2 UAW presidents, Gary Jones and Dennis Williams, who pled guilty to fraud and embezzlement.
I view that as pretty disgusting. And the only people that are truly hurt are the men and women of the union.
If the fullest extent of the law is Gary Jones going to Club Fed for a couple months and getting out, then what is this guy doing?
Balloting for union officials will be later on this fall. The next monitor report comes out in 6 months. In downtown, Jim Kirchner, 7 Action News.
All right, thank you so much for the good work, Jim, as always.